Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when new content is up. Today, I want to share with you the story of how it came about that my son had an operation at just 5 months old. So when he was around 5 or 6 weeks old, I was changing his diaper and I'm busy video calling with a friend whose baby was just 4 months older than Mugogeki. And we're chatting and suddenly I'm looking in his genital area as I'm cleaning him and I notice what looks like a massive lump. So I start to freak out and I'm saying to my friend, is this normal? Is this normal? And we're on a video call, so I'm showing her and she's like, I don't know what that is. I've got a girl, and you would think, oh, you should know what is normal, abnormal in your child's diaper and genital area. But you really, you only know when you are there because you can't just based on what you've seen as an adult. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to call the sister who happened to be my lactation specialist because she's available to me. And I had to say, listen, I'm seeing something here. I don't know what it is. And she's like, pop in for a checkup. And she's like, oh, this is a hernia. And she explains to me that a hernia is basically a little opening where an organ will start to bulge or almost like pop out. But the way that it manifested in my son is that the bulge would happen through the groin area and the one sort of like testicle side, that whole region would be massive. And obviously I freaked out. And then she was like, this is simple, but when you go for your pediatrician appointment, find out what she says. So the pediatrician is like, no man, this is not an issue because is he crying in pain? No, he's not crying in pain. He's fine. And she's like, usually these things solve themselves. And then she just said, this is how you push it back up. Just with 2 fingers, push it back up and it goes back up. And she says, if it doesn't solve itself after he's 1 year old, then we can deal with a tiny procedure that solves it. Okay, great. Life continues. From around 3 months, this thing starts popping out more often. And then he starts experiencing discomfort. And then I recall a day, like he would be complaining, but not like crying. I recall a day where it had bulged out so much, you could see he was in agony. He was screaming in pain. And then the technique of getting it back in with fingers was just not working anymore. And there was nothing that one could do to soothe him. Even to take a wet cloth just to try and, like, you will do everything as a parent in that moment where your child is squealing and having such a difficult time because the hernia has popped out. So then this was around 4.5 months or so. So then I was like, nope, I'm going to ask for a referral because he's in agony and I can't live like this. It's just too much for me. Just the way that he was sobbing. Even my mom was like, no, something's not right. Cool. And this literally speaks to the part about using your parental instinct when it comes to something's not right with your child. Even though a doctor had said you can wait till 1, I was like, I'm not doing that. So called the pediatrician's office and she was like, this is the ped surgeon we can refer you to. Great. Go to the ped surgeon and have a consult. And she's like, oh no, this is bad. And she could feel with her finger how big the gap was. She's like, no, especially if he's in pain. And she checked him out. She said, no, we can do a procedure. When do you want to book him in? So I was like, okay, I need obviously to ensure that I can be off so that I can be with him. And keep in mind, there's COVID, there are very strict rules. So gets booked in and the pediatrician surgeon, pediatric surgeon, worked at Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. And she's like, don't worry, we're gonna sort it out. I and baby had to go for COVID tests. Fortunately, we were both negative. Interestingly enough, even though I was a little bit sick at the time, I was so sure I had COVID. Like the many times I've thought I've had COVID, I thought I had COVID. Didn't have COVID. The test for the babies, if you're wondering, is not that invasive. It was a sinus test, but they don't need to go as deep into your sinuses like they do with us. So that wasn't too bad. It was a drive-through COVID test. We're all in the clear. Then you need to be at the hospital by like 6:30 in the morning. In terms of prep for surgery, there is nil per hours, which is that hospital term that they use, or medical term, to say no eating or a fasting before a certain point, because you shouldn't be having fluids and food in your body by a certain point. Or they'll say you should only have clear liquid so that the doctors can do their job. Cool. So he was only allowed to have his last milk bottle I think the night before, and then after that it was boiled water, just basically sugar water, glucose water. Then that's what he had, and for breakfast. And obviously I was panicked about him getting hungry and not being able to give him food, but he was fine. Doctors know what they're doing. We get to Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. Let me just say that hospital looks spectacular. Like, it is stunning, it is modern, it is state of the art and designed specifically for kids, just in terms of the decor, all of the things that you use there. So get to the hospital, and we go into, you register, you sign in, you go into a ward where there's other babas and their mommies there. And it is emotional because they're going to put your little one under. Me being the A-type personality that I am, asked a million questions so that I was prepared and knew what would happen when we got there. Get to the hospital, he's in good spirits. I mean, keep in mind the hernia doesn't pop out all the time, so it's not like he's in continuous pain. Once we got it back in, it's like knowing, okay, cool, we now have a plan, this is what's going to be happening. So get to the hospital, they get him into a gown with his diaper and his dummy, and then you send him to theatre with another diaper. Then what happens, and oh my gosh, you'll see the little hospital gowns. They're just baby hospital gowns, and they've got children's faces, and it's so cute. Then you go through with baby to the operating room in theatre. So I have to get into scrubs as well, cover my head, all of those things. I meet the surgeon and the whole team is there. Mind you, Baba was only 5 months at the time, but I believe in telling children what's going to happen to them. And I had told him. The one thing that I missed out on telling you guys, which might come as a surprise, is that because when he was born, he was a tiny baby that went straight to NICU, there wasn't an option for circumcision. They don't do circumcisions on tiny babies. So when I spoke to the pediatric surgeon and I said, listen, is it possible? She said, actually, if you want to do a circumcision, the perfect time to do it is during this procedure. So we had opted to do a circumcision as well. Then he heals up quickly. Cool. And maybe I need to talk about circumcision and the decision as a mom in a whole other video. Okay, cool. So we get into the operating room, and in the operating room, because I as mom, you want baby to be settled and relaxed. He's in my arms, and they basically give him the mask of gas. I gave him kisses, mommy loves you, and I'm going to be here when you wake up, and just tell him all of that. And then they put the mask with the gas, and at the beginning he fights, and then he just seemed like completely relaxed. And then I get kicked out, basically, and went to hang out by the cafeteria, waiting, and then they call you to say, he's out of surgery. Mind you, I already know he's going to be there for the night, and I as mom am also there with him for the night because he still was breastfeeding and having breast milk. So I had to pack the pumps and my own overnight bag. So we get there, he's in recovery, and you can see he's very dizzy, confused, quiet. And then in the evening, once all of that had started to wear off, energetic, making a noise. And then at some point the nurses could see I was really tired, and they're like, why don't you sleep and we'll take baby? Was I not afraid of them taking the baby? Because you think about all those horror stories, like, yeah, she gave the baby to the nurse, and then next thing, baby, maybe she wasn't even a real nurse, like all of those things. But I was able to take a nap. And what's so nice about the design is they have these single seat couches that open up into a little comfy sleeper couch. So I was settled there. I think we're there for 2 nights. Doc comes to check baby. He did really, really good. And since then, and now he's, you know, approaching 15 months, since then, he has not had a problem with the hernia at all. And they do advise you prior to the procedure that, listen, the opening can reopen, the hernia can basically be a problem again. But for now, he's been good. The recovery was simple. They gave us something that we had to do to clean. He obviously had medication he had to take in terms of pain medication, and that applied to also cleaning his circumcision, which healed up very, very quickly. But obviously the first 2-3 days, you can tell, you know, the little guy is just in agony, and your heart is just so sore, not being able to do anything for him. If I tell you today, you can not see any of the scars. You can't see them. I'm so relieved that it was done when he was young. It's something that he would remember. Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital was amazing. The staff, the nurses, they were just so great. I even, you know, got an opportunity to hear some of the stories. So sad, the stories of the children whose moms, you know, or parents live in other provinces and don't get to see them for weeks and weeks at a time. And then some of them are on dialysis, some of them have cancer, some of them have life-threatening illnesses, and it's really, really tough. So like, I absolutely have a massive respect for the nurses that work there and in essence become the parents of these kids. I was fortunate I was able to be there with my son, but not every parent is able to be with their child when they go in for these procedures, and they have to be just so gentle and kind and warm, while at the same time, like, you're being a surgeon, you're trying to do your job. So just big shout out to Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. So yeah, my son had his first surgery at 5 months old. It was a double procedure between the circumcision and closing up the hernia. He healed beautifully. He did so well, and the hospital, the doctors, shout out to the fantastic team.